as the topic of this session is social and search as part of marketing mix, so we'll try to look into how search can be part of overall marketing mix, how social can be part of overall marketing mix. Let me start by giving a brief about SEMPO. How many of you have heard about SEMPO? Okay, not many of you. Good. So SEMPO, as the name stands, it is Search Engine Marketing Professional Organization. It's started in US as a non-profit organization. It looks after the growth of search engine marketing industry globally. Though it started with search engine, now social has become part of this. They could not ignore social, but the name is still SEMPO. The name cannot be changed, but they have definitely embraced SEMPO, social as part of this. So I've been part of SEMPO for almost now three and a half years. I am part of global committee at SEMPO and SEMPO India. So one is a global committee, then there are different groups like SEMPO India is there, which Vivek Bhargava from Communicate 2 heads. He's the chairman of SEMPO India. So I'll share some of the experiences, some of the value I got, and I really invite you to be part of that. So I joined essentially initially one reason was to get network with other people who are in the same space. And given it's a non-profit, given it's led by some of the top-notch players in search engine marketing and social media space, including direct participation from search engines, Google, Yahoo, Bing, and almost anyone you can think about, authority, thought leader, they would be directly or indirectly participating. Even the board is like that, the committee is like that. So that's how I joined 3 years back. And since then, part of global committee, I've been able to interact with all of them. I've been speaking when in US, meet them. So in different ways, I got so much value by that networking. One of the key suggestions we had for SEMPO, especially for India, was, say, the membership price. Earlier, till yesterday, it was $300 for a year, which was a major bottleneck. And the formal announcement came just a day before, that price has reduced to $125 for a year for India. And that was one suggestion we have been giving for a long time. So at $125, I think it's you would have paid, many of you would have paid 15,000-20,000 rupees to come here. So I personally can vouch for it that it will be useful. I recommend you to be part of it, and together, we can create it. It's not that someone is driving it. All of us who are part of it, it's anyways a non-profit, we can drive it. So whole point is through that networking, through that. So we did a couple of events. We did SEMPO tour in India. Bill, the SEMPO president, they came. But rest is up to us. It's a great platform. There is a lot of networking, forums, all has been created. The SEMPO's website is recently upgraded. So it has a lot of those opportunities, features, which we have been giving as an input, and that has happened. So I invite you to be part of SEMPO. Some of you, I don't think there are many members so far, but I think with this price part, yeah. No, it's for every year. The annual fee, which was earlier $300, has reduced to $125, right? So that was about SEMPO. I won't talk much. I have talked, enough in 2 sessions. So I will give it to Benedict first. He has a lot of experience, especially across enterprise SEO and SEM as well. So he'll be sharing his perspective. I'll be sharing one video in the end. And so over to Benedict. And we will have a lot of time for Q&A. That's how we want to drive it, especially this is the last session. Let's go back with that interaction. Over to you.
My name is Ben Hayes. I'm the head of search at Communicate 2. I'm obviously here to talk to you about how we integrate search and social together into the marketing mix. Now, I'm going to start by putting out an idea. Now, if you ask me, Google is a modern-day mind reader. It knows exactly what the user wants and gives it to them. And it does this based upon intent. Now, when a user comes to a search engine, they have an intent. They have something front of mind. They know what they want. They come to the search engine and they search for it. Google is pretty smart. It is delivering results on the fly to that user's intent. So when you actually look at a kind of marketing strategy or anything like that, what's the key job of a marketeer? It's essentially to create an intent for their brand. It's get user interaction, get people to come along and look for their brand and drive that intent. Now, marketers are pretty good at that. They use TV, they use billboards, they use print, they use radio. It could be any of these mediums to get that intent for their brand and get users interested in their brand. And so what does that actually do? If you think about it, you have a 30-second slot within any kind of marketing medium, and within that time, the marketeers are pretty good. They'll create that intent. The user has seen it, they've engaged with it, they've liked it, and they want to investigate further. Now, in this day and age, in this modern age, where do they actually go to engage? Just checking to see if you're still awake. But, yeah, you've got it. They all go to the search engines. They go to Google, they go to Yahoo, they go to Bing. And they'll actually drive their intent online. So it's really critical that you actually connect all the dots. If you're going to drive intent here, and the user's going to come over here, you've got to connect the dot from here to here. So how do we do that? We'll actually go online and we'll actually create a kind of net that will actually capture that intent after we've created it. So we've created the intent for your standard mediums, and we'll create some sort of net that will capture it online. So I'm going to look at two case studies. I'm going to look at one way of not to do it, and I'm going to look at another way of how to do it. And I'm going to take the not how to do it, and not to do it, sorry, from the UK, just so I won't upset anyone here. But I thought it's a really smart idea. Some savvy marketeers, they bubble wrapped an entire street. And the company they were doing it for was an insurance aggregator. Now, this created quite a furore. Now, as you can see, they did a pretty cool job of it. They bubble wrapped the street. And loads and loads of people within the area, within the town, they went online looking for bubble wrap street. It was in the newspapers, it was on the telly. It got total press all over the country, and there was a huge spike in bubble wrap street search terms. So what was the effect? Well, essentially, they created this huge interest. They were in the press, and there was huge searches coming out on Google. And what were the search results? Well, first one, press. Second one, press. Third one, press. Fourth one, press. The company was not there. They drove a huge swathe of people looking for their great initiative, and they just weren't there. It's like the biggest missed opportunity I've ever seen. So that is simply how you do not do it. You've done a fantastic job of getting your brand awareness out there, and you haven't connected it up online. Now I'm going to take another example, this time from India. So, thousands of searches. Oh, sorry, I'll just carry on this bit. Thousands of searches were lost, and essentially a very successful offline campaign was a massive missed opportunity. So, I'll look at how we're going to do a good one. So, ICICI Lombard is an all company you know. They've recently run an initiative, Click Click. And there's been a huge kind of furore. They've done lots of TV, they've done lots of outdoor, and they've been following this catchphrase, Click Click. Now, this has actually generated a lot of traffic online. But what we've done is we've kind of put together a kind of online campaign to be in line with the offline campaign. So we actually started bidding on the term Click Click. And we've driven, and ICICI Lombard have created splash pages, Click Click, for their SEO, and they've created Facebook pages for their Click Click. This is the traffic for Click Click. There was no traffic, and all of a sudden, we had a massive burst of traffic. The actual impact of Click Click, a completely random phrase, which has nothing to do with the brand, actually, well, you can see this was the actual results to start with. We were there for 3 of the incidents out of 5. And then the value that actually was driven there was quite astounding. We got traffic at 1p. Who in their right mind would bid on Click Click? No one. So we had really cheap traffic, got really good click-through rates, we had very good conversion rates, and we had a fantastic cost of acquisition, and more importantly, we drove ROI through a very random kind of term. But the fact was, we linked what happened offline to what happened online. And by doing so, we were there at the right time, right place, and we picked up a lot of value. So it's just, to get the kind of key take-homes about this, I think search, social, they now should be an integral part of any marketing campaign. If you ever think of putting something out offline, remember to back it up online. Get exposure. You can be prepared pretty well. You can prepare, obviously, through paid search. You can set up a Facebook campaign to get some exposure. And you can also do kind of pre-planned microsites. Start building a little site, build a little content on there, drive some links to it, and you'll start getting some standing. Especially if you're going to take a kind of random catchphrase or term, something which is very something that no one would ever search for. If you're driving your marketing campaign through a concept, that is what's going to be the trigger for the searches online. So you can create all of the content and everything like that pre-planned, start a couple of months in advance, and then when the actual slogan hits offline, you're there and ready and present to pick up all the value that comes through from the campaign. And it's a very simple, connect the dots, and you'll get fantastic value out of it.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to follow up with what Ben has said with just one example and how not to do it and what is the correct way if you intend to do it. For For example, a very small example of a brand, the only problem which the brands or the other websites has, they do not implement the SEO properly. So this is one example which the value of a branded and a non-branded keyword. Just the example of a Samsung. So if we just type Samsung, you see all the results which are dominated by Samsung as usual. But then one of the keywords which Samsung sells in India, I would say mobile phones. They do not rank in top 10. And even if I type mobile phone India, they do not rank in top 10. That's where the problem which major brands do. A lot of companies have understood this, but there are majority of the companies who invest in SEO, thinking they are investing in SEO, but it mainly goes into the PPC. And as we all know, the SEO, the SEO is the single most factor which has the highest ROI across all the digital channels. And the benefits of SEO, of course, are a lot. For example, it's 24/7, so you don't have to actually pay anything for that. And research has shown that at least people trust the organic results 3 times more than the pay-per-click results. Now, what could they have done right? So it's just the basics which I'm covering here. Just SEO is just like any other marketing plan. You need to do your market and keyword research well. A recent study says 80% of all the online transactions begins with a keyword research. And if it used to be if you target the wrong keywords, of course all your efforts will go in vain. Then, of course, there is a competition analysis which we must do, which we'll see a lot of the companies don't do. The most single important factor is content optimization and site and HTML modifications, which major brands do not undertake. We ourselves face a lot of brands which we undertake as an SEO. Most of these companies refuse to do any changes on the content and the site and the HTML. The architect is built in such a way that it's very, very difficult for us to change, and if at the end it comes to changing the website, and there's the bottleneck. So at the end they go back to the PPC. Then the digital asset optimization, this is very, very important. Now even if I go back to the Samsung, they would release a press release, but the problem which they would do, they would either not pass the links. So if let's say Samsung launches a new mobile phone, they would do a press release which is I would say picked the fastest in the search engines. Now if they do a press release, it's picked by let's say 3,000 publications. All 3,000 publications are crawled by search engines, but very common error. They will forget to pass the link to that particular mobile phone model, or they will not have the links in the bottom of the press release which goes to their Facebook or their Twitter link, or that's the digital asset optimization. And they do at times, if they're going to put the press release on their website, it might only be in a textual version. So the very, very important thing when it comes to digital asset optimization, because there are too many companies, so somebody else is going to do the press release, somebody else is working on the SEO part. So the connect is missing always there. And what we find a lot of times, that the company which is doing the press release is using different URLs, the company which is using the SEO is using different URL, and that is the key here. The digital asset optimization is not done at all. And we continue keeping up that we use single URL and use a lot of URLs when you have a press release or any article or any sort of service which you use. At least use more than one link, and most important thing, be consistent. Consistency is the key. When again with Google, Bing getting very active, I'm not sure how many of the agencies or how many of these brands use Google Webmaster Tools to analyze these. It's very important, the regular monitoring of Google Analytics, Bing. These are something which I feel is important for the integration of the marketing mix. Because if somebody thinks they're integrating, it's not complete unless you rank for a non-branded keywords.